Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, parts of Peru, Brazil, and Guyana, all combined into one giant South American nation, a nation stretching from the Caribbean to the Amazon. And this wasn't some hypothetical fantasy. It actually existed. It was founded in 1819 and led by none other than the biggest hero in Latin American history, Simón Bolívar. But how did a nation this powerful collapse in just over a decade? This is the story of Bolívar's impossible dream. This is the forgotten story of Gran Colombia. For centuries, the Spanish Empire ruled the Americas with near absolute authority. Spain's golden age was built on silver and gold extracted from the New World, which was ruled through rigid colonial structures and unchallenged monarchy. But by the early 1800s, everything changed. Napoleon invaded Spain in 1808 and installed his own brother, Joseph Bonaparte, on the throne. In the Americas, this created chaos. Overnight, the idea of legitimate authority collapsed. Loyalists to the Spanish king refused to recognize Napoleon's puppet king. Rebels saw the power vacuum as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If Spain no longer ruled itself, why should it rule an entire continent? Out of this chaos emerged Simón Bolívar, a young Venezuelan aristocrat. His family belonged to the wealthy Venezuelan elite, people largely of Spanish descent, born in the colonies. By age 9, Bolívar had lost both parents to tuberculosis. Orphaned but not abandoned, he was educated in Europe under the tutelage of Simón Rodríguez, a radical intellectual who had joined a failed 1797 rebellion in Venezuela. Steeped in Enlightenment ideals and outraged by Spain's economic exploitation of South America, Bolívar became deeply committed to independence and self-rule. At just 22 years old, Bolívar took a vow in the presence of his mentor while walking on Rome's Monte Sacro hill. "I will not rest my body or soul until I have broken the chains with which Spanish power oppresses us." Bolívar saw Napoleon's invasion of Spain as the perfect opportunity to break Spain's grip on South America. In 1811, he joined the revolution that overthrew Spanish rule in Venezuela and established the first Venezuelan republic. But within a year, royalist forces regained power, driving Bolívar into exile. By 1813, he had rebuilt his forces and once again swept across the Venezuelan countryside. But just like last time, he was exiled again after royalists took back control. In exile, he wrote extensively, requesting assistance from Britain. There, he drafted his famous Jamaica Letter, envisioning a grand South American federation led by a lifelong president. In 1819, he executed one of the most extraordinary military campaigns in history. Leading approximately 2,500 men across flooded plains, through tropical jungles, and over snow-covered Andean peaks, Bolívar marched into the heart of New Granada. On August 7, 1819, at the Battle of Boyacá, Bolívar crushed the Spanish Royalist Army, a victory that would set the stage for independence across northern South America. By year's end, he oversaw the creation of Gran Colombia, a vast republic covering much of present-day Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, and Ecuador. Over the next few months, Bolívar's forces drove out the remaining loyalist troops from the territory of the newly created republic. In 1821, a central government was set up with Bolívar as president and Santander as vice president. On paper, Gran Colombia was divided into departments governed from Bogotá, Caracas, and Quito. But in reality, power flowed overwhelmingly through Bogotá. Laws, taxes, military decisions, all were dictated from the center. And almost immediately, resentment began to grow in Venezuelans and Ecuadorians. Independence had been won and a new nation created. Now came the much harder question: who would actually rule? From the moment it was born, Gran Colombia wrestled with conflicting visions of how it should be governed. Some leaders, like Santander, favored a federal system, granting autonomy to local regions and trusting local elites to manage their own affairs. Others, especially Bolívar, believed in a strong centralized government, convinced that only unity could protect against chaos and civil war. But this theoretical divide quickly became a real political fault line. In Venezuela, many believed the central government in Bogotá imposed unfair policies and drained local wealth. In 1826, a movement called La Coseta, led by General Pérez, openly challenged central authority. Across the south, in Ecuador, regional leaders believed Quito deserved greater control over local affairs, not ruled by a distant capital. Rebellion and local resistance were constant threats to the fragile unity. The republic's institutions struggled to function on the ground. Governors often acted independently. Local priorities clashed with national policy, and the central government lacked the means to enforce its will across such challenging terrain. As Gran Colombia was starting to tear itself apart from within, its leader, Bolívar, was rarely there to hold it together. While dissent and rebellion grew at home, Bolívar continued his wider mission of liberation of Spanish colonies in America. He marched south, helping to free Peru, and then Upper Peru, which would soon be renamed Bolívar in his honor. For a brief period, Bolívar simultaneously held the presidency of Gran Colombia, Peru, and Bolívar. At that moment, the idea of a united Spanish America seemed almost within reach. But back in Gran Colombia, the cracks only widened. As resistance mounted and unity weakened, Bolívar attempted to bridge the growing divides, reorganizing departments, appointing loyal generals, and proposing constitutional changes meant to stabilize the republic. But as dissent deepened, his patience ran out. In 1828, facing political paralysis and rising regionalism, Bolívar assumed dictatorial powers, arguing that extraordinary authority was the only way to save the nation. This decision exploded tensions. Opponents saw it not as a temporary necessity, but as a betrayal of Republican ideals. On September 25, 1828, conspirators burst into the presidential palace in Bogotá, intending to assassinate Bolívar. Although he managed to escape with his life, the Republic had been fatally wounded. Within months, regions began falling away. Venezuela and Ecuador declared their separation in 1830, and the Federation formally dissolved in 1831. Venezuela, Ecuador, and New Granada came to exist as independent states. Bolívar retired, exhausted and disillusioned, retreated to the coast. He died in December 1830, broken by the collapse of the very union he had fought so hard to create. Gran Colombia existed for just over a decade, from 1819 to 1831, yet even today the flags of Colombia, Venezuela, and Ecuador carry the colors of that early union. Symbols of a dream that, even though short-lived, helped shape modern Latin America. What do you think? Could Gran Colombia have survived, or was it always destined to fail? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe to our channel for more such stories from the past. And as always, thanks for watching.